Welcome to In Vivo Leadership Podcast. I am your host, your leadership addict, Laylee. I had the pleasure to speak with Jay in this episode, and how I heard about her and what got my attention was finding out about her book called Reclaimed and Rewoven. It's a guided self-journal. What I did is I bought it and I worked on it. I did it, and it rocked my world in the best way possible. I asked her to come and talk about her book and her experience being a Reiki master and a holistic healer. So in this episode, we go into depth about that, and it's really special. And if you don't believe in Reiki or energy work, it really doesn't have to do with whether or not you believe in any of this. I actually will challenge you to tune in and really hear her message. And that's self-remembrance, self-integration. They go a long way in your journey of self-discovery. So do the work. That's what she's talking about. And I share my experience with her in our podcast about how I was going through her self-guided journal. We talk about the importance of practicing knowing who you are. So if you don't resonate with the Reiki part, I want you to take that message and run with it. Enough from me. Let's explore with Jay. It is such a pleasure to have you in the In Vivo Leadership Podcast, Jay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I listened to a few previous episodes and I love the conversations that you have and I love the work that you're doing. So it's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, I love what you do, and I've had the pleasure of grabbing your book and doing the work. I would love our audience to learn more about you. So tell me more about you.
So I'm a Reiki master primarily. And for those who aren't familiar with Reiki, that's a Japanese energy healing technique. And what energy workers do is we work closely with life force energy, what's also known as chi. We open ourselves up to be a channel for life force energy, and that's just the energy that flows all through us, all around us. It's the energy that turns the seed into the fruit. So we become a channel for that energy to help just gently guide and shift some energy to create some more flow, movement, break up any stuck or stagnant energy within the body, object, or place that we're working in. So that's primarily what I do. I am working on building a wellness practice where I support people on their healing journeys. And so that's kind of where this journal stepped in, as I'm looking to expand on my offerings. And I felt, what better way right now than a simple workbook where we can all sit down and do the work together and start having some of these conversations.
What inspired you to go into this field?
Yeah. So I was working with a therapist who had a really holistic and natural approach to healing. And in one of our sessions, Reiki had gotten brought up. And I remember I've heard about it here and there, but I didn't really know what it was. So after our session, I went home, started doing a bunch of research, and really was just so drawn to the practice and so drawn to the work within the Reiki industry and community. And so I decided to sign up for some courses. And as I was doing the course and working with the energy, it just helped my healing journey so much. And it was something that deeply empowered me so much. And I just felt deeply aligned with it. I knew it was going to be a part of my path and of my journey. So that's kind of how I got into that industry. And yeah, it's just opened up my world to connecting deeper with myself, journaling more, and all of that.
Let's jump into the book because I want to discuss the Reclaimed and Rewoven. Did I say the title right?
Yes,
Want to make
yes.
sure. It has
Yes.
rocked my world, so I'm sure it's going to rock everybody's world in the best way possible. I know the content in there talks about your inner childhood, you tap into your teenage self, and then you go into more of the self-discovery piece. Can
Mhm.
you walk me through the content a bit more?
Yeah. So I wanted this to kind of reflect the journey of growing up in a sense. I think, naturally we go through these different phases and then we reach adulthood and we're in charge of our own healing. We're in charge of parenting ourselves and figuring it out from there. And so I wanted this to be something that was deeply supportive in adulthood, where we can go back and deeply connect with parts of ourselves that maybe still need a little bit of support and reassurance and love. So that's why I started from inner child to inner teen to then more of the self-discovery. and empowerment. You know what I mean? So in the inner child section, we do a lot of work with discovering just like certain beliefs that you have adopted as a child, things that you may have needed that your parents or community were not able to provide at the time, and learning how to become aware of that and give that to yourself. And then with the inner teen healing, it's, that is a phase where you are kind of pushing back, you're questioning everything that you've learned, and you're finding out your own voice, your own style, your own way of expressing yourself. So in that section, we do a lot of deep work about, hearing your voice and what was your self-expression, what were your beliefs around love and the way that you connected to yourself and the way that you connected to your self-expression. And then we walk kind of into really tapping into, who am I as a soul? Who am I as an embodied person? What does that look like to me? So it's going to show up. The work in this journal is going to show up differently for everybody. But it's just a tool, a tool to use to help deeply connect with those answers within yourself and really learn how to embody those things fully and then weave them into your everyday life.
I'm sure some of the listeners, because I do leadership podcasts, are thinking, why is Laylee talking about Reiki and leadership? Um,
Yeah.
I've had really great experience with Reiki in the past. And so it's helped me in many ways than it's hurt. Hurt has been zero. Reiki has just been influential in
Yeah.
helping figure out my chakras, balance my chakras, and find my inner voice. I would love to get your expertise in how listeners from a leadership perspective can engage in this book and learn more about themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes down to leadership, like that all starts with you, right? Like that all starts with your own self-care. In the same way that we need to take care of our minds and our physical bodies, we also need to maintain our energetic bodies and our emotional bodies. And for me, when I think about a leader, I think of a torchbearer, someone that's willing to go first and walk through the flames and gain the wisdom and the tools, and then bring that into community to reach back and to pull forward. And I feel like this journal is a great way to deeply just connect with yourself and really get grounded in, what does living in integrity mean to you? What are some beliefs that you're ready to let go of? What are some beliefs that you want to explore a little bit more when it comes to where you're heading? And I think when you know yourself so deeply, you know how you want to lead. You know what I mean? You know how you're called to lead. And so I feel like journaling in general is a great way to tap into that. And then this journal, Reclaimed and Rewoven, is a bit more of a narrowed down, intentional deep dive into journaling. We have a few meditation practices in there where you can really sit with those different parts of yourselves and get to know them a lot deeper within your body. And we have affirmations that you can speak over yourself in your life to help rewire those beliefs that you're trying to weave into life. You know what I mean? So I think it's a great starting point for leaders. I think having that relationship with yourself is essential within your foundation to build upon.
One of the things that I really care about in Vivo Leadership Strategies is we get out of this whole theoretical base of what leadership should look like and dive into putting it in action, learning from experience. So I wanted to experience this book and really jump into discovering some of the pieces that I feel like, especially now, it may be missing for the next chapter in my life. And Jay, I kind of mentioned this to you before our podcast, but it was such a positive experience. The inner child was the part that I spent the most time with because I loved my childhood. So I spent the most time in there. Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to get your insight with where do you see a lot of people spending time in the journal? Maybe like
Yeah.
more excited, more freely. What's been your experience seeing others do this?
Definitely inner child. It's kind of funny. I think, especially, I mean, inner child work will be something that we do forever. But I think most people, and this is just based off of conversations that I've had, most people are drawn to the inner child section because that's where you're the most free. and authentic. When children have zero filter, they're not worried about what people think about what they say. We teach them to be that way. They're just focused on playing and imagining and creating and laughing and loving and living. And I think that's why we're drawn to that section so much, is because that part of us never goes away. It just we become conditioned. You know what I mean? We become conditioned to be a certain type of way. And in turn, we lose touch with some of those very powerful aspects of what it means to be human.
And there's a meditation part at the end of the
Mhm.
section, as well as the other sections, where you basically meet your inner child and you have a dialogue with them. So there's also guidance of like, have a candlelight near you and just ways that you can step into that. And I want to tell our listeners who have self-doubt with meditation, because I know tons of leaders who have gained a lot out of it.
Yeah,
I went into it and I'm being super sincere, thinking nothing's going to come out of it, especially because you also include area where you can write about it right after. I
hmm,
thought I probably will write like 3 sentences. I spent maybe 45 minutes with
hmm.
my inner child self,
Wow.
and it was very detailed to the point I think I wrote 4 pages worth of
Wow.
emails.
Yeah,
And what I really got out of it is, again, just more experimentation. Where I'm at in my life is I have been wanting to expand my business and do some of the work there. I feel like I need to still learn some of the ways that I need to speak. How do I want to speak my message?
yeah,
And your book came at a time where I think I needed it and I didn't know. And so that section really spoke a great deal to me.
yeah.
Big thank you for that.
Oh,
And
thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you not only for, taking a chance on the journal, but also sharing that experience. I think it just goes to show like sometimes our inner child calls to us, to prepare us for the journey ahead, to kind of get us out of that rigid nature and to loosen up and play and imagine and step into more of our like expanded light. You know what I mean? More of our potential. I
And
love
I want to
that.
spend time in the negativity portion of what could come out for you, because then the section that I was not wanting to spend a lot of time with unconsciously was the teenager section.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear what you have heard from your readers and what their experience has been in that section.
Yeah. Inner teen work is hard. It's hard because it's messy and it's loud and it's ungrounded and it's a little crazy. It's the bridge between being a child and being an adult. And so a lot of my readers have been met with resistance. A lot of people in general are met with resistance when doing inner teen work, but that's a part of it. It's revisiting a time of change. You know what I mean? Where you don't really know where you're headed and you don't really know who you're becoming, but you know what you don't resonate with. So it definitely, yeah, it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but
Mhm.
it is deeply powerful work to step into that, because that's where you really like feel into your fire. And that fire is what sometimes gets you going. That fire is your no when you mean no. And that fire is yes when you mean yes. And so it's tough work. But I think sometimes the work that we feel the most resistant to is like the deepest. Some of the deepest. So yeah, there has been a lot of resistance. Like, you're definitely not alone in that. I feel resistant doing inner teen work as well.
I'm so glad to hear that, because part of me thought, man, I cannot, like, I'm probably the only person who's done this journal. And I'm hesitating to even write answers for questions because I'm like, this is super uncomfortable. Next question.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable. Next question. But for those people like myself who maybe go into some of these sections and feel uncomfortable and the resistance, what are some ways they can work through it safely?
My biggest thing, I would say, okay, I'm going to share three things. Okay. First, go slow and move intentionally. You never want, when you are doing any type of healing work, you never want to force yourself past your limits and your boundaries. So it's really important to do this work slow, to like double check in with yourself and make sure that you are ready to go there, because you don't want to end up bringing things up without the proper support or re-traumatizing yourself if that is part of your experience. And so it is very important to go slow and steady every time. And then move intuitively too, is like go where you're guided. If you're not quite feeling ready to do some of that work, that's for a reason. And I really think it's important to learn how to listen to our own internal compass. It's guiding us the way that we need to be guided, not the way that our mind thinks we need to move through it, but how our heart knows that we need to move through it. And then next, I would say create safe spaces. So that would either be in your home, in your office, places that you really do feel comfortable being seen. You could also create safe spaces within community, with friendships. You just need one person that sees you and loves you just as you are, having those safe spaces and community. And then also just creating general safety in your body, making sure that you have what you need, making sure you're drinking water and fueling your body and taking moments to just ground and breathe and check in. Having those little points to come home to, having those things to come home to really help when you are doing emotional work and psychological work and bringing things back up to the surface that may be uncomfortable.
I love your reference to the internal compass because I think as far as leadership goes, we tend to get lost easily in the daily flow of the busyness and the burnouts and everything that comes with it, that we forget that there's an internal compass. So we have to do exercises like this to stay afloat.
I love that. Yeah.
So, how can leaders use the book to
Yeah.
help them in their next journey? Whether it's self-development, maybe it's a promotion, maybe it's more of a career move.
Yeah. I think it's a great tool. I mean, I think this is definitely something that can just help you pause and like think about what is holding me back, where am I kind of feeling drawn to invite in more, and to really like check in with yourself as you are today, right? Because you're not the same as you were last year or even last week. So I feel like it's a really good tool for leaders to just pause and to check in with yourself and see like, how have I grown? In which ways have I grown? What do I believe now versus what I believed then? And where is that leading me? How is that ushering me into the next phase of my life, phase of my journey? So I think it's a really good tool to just pause and slow down and connect with yourself.
And your words remind me of this book called True North, where he talks about knowing your career, you're like not going into your deathbed and looking at your life and going like, well, this just kind of happened to me. It wasn't like I chose this career. It wasn't
Mm.
like I chose this title. And really purposefully living your life to your true north. So finding ways to honor that. I think this is a very good tool, to your point, in staying true to your true north.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
How can you navigate, let's say if I'm fearful, because that happens, right?
Yeah,
We look at work like this and we just want to do this. And
yeah,
sadly, we become this reactive person because things have to happen to us for us to be forced to the work. So I
yeah.
want our listeners to be more proactive. How can we navigate self-remembrance and sacred integration piece without the fear being taken over in our body?
Well, it comes down to changing your relationship to fear, which is tough, again, tough work, slow work. But it's essential because there is no way to do this work without fear completely. Like fear does come up, especially when you are growing and changing and expanding. That's natural. One thing that's helped me along my journey and something that I'm still learning as I go is learning how to see fear as my teacher, and learning how to slow down and sit with it like it were a friend. And like, what are you trying to show me? Where are you showing me that I may still feel unsafe in my body? Where am I needing a little more affirmation and encouragement? Or where am I needing some more compassion and love? Right? Or where am I needing a little more time too? I think fear really highlights where we're not feeling safe, where we're not feeling held and supported. because all it really wants to know is this change okay? Is this change, am I going to be okay with this? So it really takes slowing down and getting to see fear as our teacher, because it will be a part of this process. Now, there are ways to do it with less fear, and just to circle back, like going slow and moving intentionally, not forcing yourself through this process, not forcing yourself to do what you truly are not ready to do. And I feel like that in turn builds self-trust, which eliminates fear. When you really listen to your inner voice and you listen to your yeses and you listen to your nos and you honor those, you build self-trust within yourself. So I think that's a way that you can navigate this journey with less fear. And then also, same thing is for me, I like to do this work in a safe environment. I like to make my living room or my bedroom super cozy and feel just like super warm, like I'm held, because some of this stuff is uncomfortable. And I want to make sure that I'm as relaxed as possible and I feel supported by my environment as I am doing this work.
And that my executive coach is now popping out. The physical aspect of it too. I want to talk to you about that because I know with Reiki, you're talking about your chakras and about balancing it.
Mhm.
As you're experiencing resistance, whether it's fear or anger, how do you tap into your physical self to discover some realities that you may not mentally still face? You
Yeah.
want to say
Is that like,
I know this.
like, how can you slow down and kind of feel that in your body?
100%. Because I
Yes.
leaders don't do a good job of that. So can you help us with that?
A little bit of stillness goes a long way. Same with breathing. Your breath is always there for you. And it is so funny. If you breathe, if you just like pause and focus on your breath long enough, it has this powerful way of just like drawing you into yourself. So, taking little moments throughout your day, it doesn't have to be this like grand thing, like a 30-minute meditation. It could be 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Creating a habit of pausing and doing body scans from head to toe, just noticing where are you holding tension? Where do you feel expansion? Where do you feel kind of like a feeling in your body? When do you feel like a like tightening up and contracting? Really just slowing down and breathing and noticing any tension in your body is a great indication of where you're holding on really tightly or where you're kind of breathing easy and ready to grow.
So I want to throw in an example for you just to walk me through what I'm dealing with. So let's say I'm sitting in a meeting and it gets really tense and I want to say something, but I don't know how to say it, or maybe I just feel a little bit more reserved because I don't know how people are going to take it. And I start to feel something in my throat.
Yeah.
So what would you suggest someone to recognize it or what to do in that circumstance if they do recognize it? What would they?
Yeah, I would, if you do have to speak, ask for a little bit of time that you need to find your words. Usually, tightness in the throat, your heart and your throat are connected, is when you want to say something that you truly do mean and you're holding back. If you do need more time than just a few seconds to speak that in the meeting, then breathe through it. Invite some breath, because breath is movement, and that will just help get the energy flowing, to buy you some more time to really like check in with yourself of like, what do I really want to say here? What do I really feel here? Your breath is such a powerful tool and it's always there for you.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand the pattern here too, Jay, with the breath work. Let's say someone really bothers me a lot. I mean, they
Yeah.
may be a bad leader, or maybe the conversation we have is going nowhere, and I'll feel it very much within my heart. What are your recommendations for something like that in my heart?
Yeah. I like to place my hand on my heart. Sometimes just bringing some loving awareness to those areas that feel tense and tight. And I think, too, it's important to realize that not every discomfort needs immediate fixing. Sometimes they're just little clues for us to take home with us and sit with. So if you are feeling that in the moment, just send some loving awareness, like, I see you. I feel you. Let's check in with that later. Because then the wisdom will come when you're safe to relax and really look at it deeper and understand what it's indicating to you. Sometimes I think we get so attached to the emotions that come up within us when really they're just information. They're trying to show us where a boundary may be crossed or where we may be out of alignment or where we're in the wrong setting, in the wrong space, in the wrong conversation.
And I think if we haven't emotionally matured or have our EQ to a point where we can recognize that, we tend to go into either reactive mode or
Yeah.
a mode of our inner child where we want to sit in a corner and like rock ourselves to sleep.
Yeah.
One or the other. Most of the time when I've talked to leaders, that's where they lean to. Or there's this other outlier where there's the avoidant attachment. So you just
Yeah.
basically try to detach yourself from everything and just build yourself like a robot. Are you seeing that a lot in your Reiki work? That
Yeah, I mean, even I experienced that. I think it's just a human experience, something that we do. And it's all about like learning what are the ways that you can give yourself safe support and also knowing yourself, like where are the areas that I do feel a little triggered and what feels right for me. So, like, I'm definitely somebody that will feel tightness within my body and have to eventually go away and sit with that and kind of look at that and then tackle that after the fact. I think it shows up for everybody, but I truly do feel like there is no way to completely get rid of it. And if there is, I haven't learned that yet on my journey. But I think it's all about just knowing yourself, right? Like knowing how you do show up in the world and what it is that you need to give yourself the support that you need. If you need time away and privacy, learn to ask, like learn ways to ask for that. And if you are a little bit more like reactive and vocal, learn how to just slow down a little bit so that you can figure out your delivery.
a lot of what you're saying is just letting your ego step aside and just
Yeah.
being truthful with your body, with your situation, with how you
Yeah.
acknowledge your feelings. And I think that's very tough to do, and especially if you are not very aware of yourself. So, a follow-up question that I have is really having to do with how to balance yourself from a chakra level in your daily work. What are some
Yeah.
ways that we can be more aware of that?
Doing the chakra work and checking in with your body in your own time, truly. Like for your root chakra, that's where it all begins. If you have a blocked root chakra, your whole system is going to experience some level of blockage. So, taking care of your shelter, your physical health, your sense of safety, and your sense of security in this world is really, really important. If you're in survival mode, you will not feel safe within your body. And it's really hard to do the rest of the work when you are stuck in survival mode. So I think it really comes down to doing the work at a fundamental survival level. But it really does come down to slowing down and listening to your body. Placing your hand on your chakra centers is a really good way to bring some awareness to those areas. And each chakra kind of represents something different as well. So, learning how to honor your creativity for your sacral chakra, learning how to balance your, sexual energy for your solar plexus, learning how to step into your confidence, living a life in integrity and doing what you say you're going to do, being disciplined in your goals. For your heart chakra, speaking your heart and opening yourself up to love, whether that's self love or partnership, family, community, you name it. And your throat, speaking your truth, expressing yourself. That could even come down to wearing what you want to wear, creating the business that you want to create. Your third eye, allowing yourself to visualize and to chase those visions and to think outside of the box. And your crown chakra is all about that connection to higher source, whatever name you have for that, is learning how to sit in silence and receive, learning how to sit in prayer and connect.
This isn't, for listeners who don't believe in Reiki or any of this stuff, this goes beyond that to me. It's working on yourself, and there's no way for us to ever skip this work. So
Yeah.
as you talk to me about the heart chakra and the throat and so forth, I immediately think you don't even have to say chakras to me if I didn't believe in any of that. There's
Yeah.
still work to be done
Yeah.
from all aspects of ourselves. With that said, one last question for you.
Yeah.
What are some ways to stay in tune with your inner self?
So one simple way that I really like to practice is I set my phone screensaver as an affirmation that's kind of rooted in what I'm working on at that time. So let's say it was connecting with myself. I would make my screensaver an affirmation of like, I am deeply connected to myself. And every time I see that, I take that as my reminder to live in alignment with that, to live in integrity with that, and connect deeply to myself. So that's one way. Another way is your breath. I set breathing reminders throughout the day because a lot of us, I mean, we live in a busy, fast paced, stressful world and we forget to breathe. We really do. We hold our breath way up here all the time when we really should be practicing deep belly breathing. So I set 3 timers, one in the morning, one midday, and one at night to just take 2 to 3 minutes to deep belly breathe. And then another way is just like listen to your inner compass, listen to what you're pulled to, just take a little bit of time to notice what am I kind of closed off from throughout the day? What am I being drawn towards? And really just taking some time to think about that, right? What is that telling me about myself? What am I inspired to do? And what am I kind of moving away from now?
Jay, where can we find you? And of course, where can we find this great book?
So I am on all social media. Well, I don't want to say all. I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at Earthbound Energies. And then you can find Reclaimed and Rewoven on Amazon. Just type in the search Reclaimed and Rewoven and it'll pop up. Or you can find the link in my link tree in my bio on Instagram.
It was such a pleasure, Jay. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This was a great conversation.
I loved it.